Hello, everybody. It's Adrian Plass here.
Yes, and Bridget. It's not really a surprise anymore, is it?
Not
Hello,
to anybody
anyway.
else who's ever listened to us rabbiting on. And it is number 267
It is.
in Sounding the Shadows.
And in the middle of everything going on, we've had quite a treat this week, really, haven't we? Because last week we sort of suggested that anybody who might like to write something about heaven or something connected with it might get in touch with us. And we've had some really lovely poems, haven't we? And
I'm just pleased that people
thoughts and
trusted us with stuff they'd written.
that's
because
right.
It's not always easy to release something.
No.
Uh,
No,
But
it
no,
isn't. But what we thought we'd do something a bit different today, and we're going to share some of them because they
Yeah,
were a
just read
treat,
them out,
weren't they?
yeah,
They really
yeah.
were.
Where shall we start?
Well,
then?
I think we'll start with the first one that we got. And I was interested because she said that these words came as I walked our two dogs, and she calls her poem Walking Thoughts.
Right.
And before I say it, I mean, when I think about it, Adrian, you used to walk our dog Lucy, didn't you, every morning before setting down to work. And it was the time when, I mean, she was a very good dog and she trundled along quite happily and sniffed at things and didn't run off. And it was the most amazing space created for you to just think about things,
Well, actually,
wasn't it?
particularly before writing a book called Looking Good, Being Bad,
That's
which is one of my
interesting.
favourite books of my own books. It still makes me laugh. But every time I went for a walk with her, because in a way, when you have some ideas build themselves, once you've got the idea, it's like something unraveling. So I go and walk with the dog, and another one would occur to me, and another one. Maybe you come back with two ideas that would be. In those days, I was still trying to make sure I wrote 1,000 words a day, so you probably come back with enough material for that. And
You'd come back, you'd have a coffee, and
yes,
then you'd settle down.
yes,
But I think so often we meet people who say that just walking or sitting or being outside gives us space that you kind of take that space. And if you have a dog, you're supposed to walk the dog. So it isn't even an indulgent space. It's doing the right thing. And sometimes that can be such a release of any guilt or any pressure.
yeah.
Anyway, this is her poem.
What's
And
it
if you
called?
remember, it's called Walking Thoughts.
Right.
And we were thinking of glimpses of heaven, things that, because I think the thing that's triggered this, Adrian, is the last line of your poem about heaven, which you read last week. Can you remember the last line of your poem? It's "Forgive me, Lord."
It's about saying, I can't remember the exact words, but is it okay to lay earthly hopes at heaven's door?
Or in the saying
or,
so.
or in the and ending by saying, I love this world you made, it's all I know.
It's all I know. And I
Yeah.
think that quite a few of the poems have picked up on that, that we cannot describe heaven. If we start trying to imagine it, we just end up trundling down the sort of furrows of the bits in the Bible we might remember, instead of thinking, what are our little glimpses?
Well, I can't describe Bolton.
Bolton?
Yeah, I mean any place I've not been to.
Oh, I see.
I haven't been to heaven.
You might not have been. You might have been to Bolton and not realised it, but anyway.
Anyway, people
Right.
of Bolton, I'm sure you live in heaven. Right. Okay. What was it called again?
It's called Walking
Thoughts, right.
Leaden sky, the heavy trudge of weary feet, oppressive stillness, then whispered breath, an almost imperceptible sigh makes wind chimes ring nearby. I think of heaven. Clouds, grey-black, obliterating the sun, stealing hope, but by the school gate, a small child's voice, see you soon, contrasting the gloom as soft shiny bubbles trail upwards from the little pot she holds tightly in her hand. I think of heaven. Rain batters the earth, thunder roaring its accusations, head in hands, endless demands, was it all my fault? But a new dawn breaks, a new day breaks, that sudden breath held, longing for a different song. Creation, waits. And I think of heaven. There's so many lovely ideas in that. What was your favourite? I think mine was the child. You know those little pots of bubbles that children hold and blow through? They hold them so tightly. And there's something always so hopeful in a child that she's going to, or he's going to blow the biggest bubble, and it will be amazing. So that I loved. What else?
I think a child saying "see you soon." One of my there are little capsules of enjoyment that I remember from my life, and one of them is walking the boys and then the girl.
We had 3 boys and 1 girl, just a matter of interest.
Down to the school, which was about a mile, isn't it?
Yeah, they walked, our children, yeah.
And it was a great walk, actually. And I loved saying goodbye to them when we said, see you soon, see you at the end of the day. Because on the whole, there were 1 or 2 little problems, but they did enjoy being with their friends there.
Especially primary school, and I think that's what you're thinking about, isn't it?
It's see you soon. It's a... it's in the very core of what you want is to be sure that. So I suppose maybe that's heaven.
So thank you very much for that. I mean, I also love the almost imperceptible sigh that makes wind chimes ring. It doesn't take much wind for a wind chime. No. It was lovely anyway, and we really enjoyed it. So thank you for that one. And then we had a poem by somebody we know quite well, who shares a particular love.
This week I've been watching the cricket.
So probably has he.
So when England came to bat after bowling India out, someone said to me, in fact my son said to me, they'll be lucky to last 5 overs. In fact, of course, they set off brilliantly, and by the end of their first day as the batting team, were 100 and something for no wicket. But so I mean, the thing about cricket is, to those who don't like it or have anything to do with it, it's a bit inexplicable. But yeah, so this is a nice guy we know, and it's
who
nice
loves
to hear from him.
The same thing as you. Loves cricket.
Yes. So. I don't know if he'd called it a poem or whether it's something he's written.
No, he just said something on heaven, and here goes, and he hopes it's a little blessing.
Yeah, I set myself the task of writing something on heaven. Earthly joys in heaven, can it be? Cricket. At that point, you might as well stop, because that is the big question.
Start again. Read it again, because you cannot stop there and talk about the cricket.
Of course there'll be cricket in heaven.
Start
again. Ridiculous.
Earthly joys.
We'll all be saved by grace.
Yes.
W.G. Grace.
Yes.
Right. Earthly joys in heaven. Can it be? Cricket. Tennis. The weather. And many more. Or will it so surpass all that we know that its joys will be so different and unknown? We cannot know. But the Creator must be more than his creation. You would suppose he's right about that. More rich, more glorious, more beautiful. Can we be like him? Yes, says the Bible. Wow, say I.
I love that, Adrian. I love the end of it. And I also, the line that really did make me think, because of course it's obvious, but, you know, the Creator must surely be more than his creation. And sometimes we get stuck on the creation bit, I think. And, I loved it. The next one...
Can I just say that, that is interesting. There's a sort of dichotomy in view of the Creator, which is that he is so big and marvellous and wonderful and whatever that you have no hope of ever understanding him or having any true view of him. In fact, the record of the Creator that we are aware of is that someone constantly trying to squeeze himself into a shape small enough for people to feel something for.
Hence him coming as a baby,
yes,
I suppose.
Exactly, yeah,
and when you think about a small child who sees a spider and far from being frightened of the spider, finds every bit about that spider, or a ladybird, or a tadpole, or anything really, something small, It's so easy to lose it all. Anyway, thank you for that, because I think that just caught it right in the middle for me. I probably wasn't quite as moved by the reference to cricket as you were.
You need help.
Yes. Okay, maybe I do. Anyway, I mean, I hope you're enjoying this, because we loved it so much that we're loving sharing these. And this is from somebody who, we've heard again from, and always love what she writes. And she just simply says, it's almost a list, but it's a very moving list, really. Things I see as tasters of heaven on earth. And you know how a taster, we used to love it in the supermarkets, didn't we, Adrian? They don't seem to do it anymore. Yeah. Where you go to the cheese counter and there'd be tiny little bits of cheese.
Yeah, they don't want to waste anything that could be sold anymore.
No, maybe that's what it was. But do you remember that taster idea?
Yeah.
Sometimes it was disappointing when you got the whole thing, but I'm sure this wouldn't be, because it's heaven. Anyway, spending time with a true friend, a beautiful sunset, music that touches the heart, intricacies of flower petals, laughing with family, the silence of an old church or cathedral, holding a newborn baby, a breeze on a hot day, the feeling of home. I love that list, Adrian. I mean, because it included hearing, smelling. I mean, a newborn baby. No, I'm not talking about the nappy end. I'm talking about just the smell of that, breathing in that newborn baby, and intricacies of flower petals. Once you start really looking at flowers, they're mind-blowing, really.
It is interesting that everybody would write a different list, I suppose.
They would.
I remember sitting by a window about 23 years ago with the breeze blowing in through the window and feeling completely content. There was no content to it other than a breeze coming through the window. And because I live inwardly a fairly angsty life, really, you have to not grab, but live in peace where you find it. And I don't actually want total peace. I want peace from things that I haven't enjoyed or don't like and all that. But I think there are moments that are wasted because you're on to the next thing. And I think as you get older, you do get I do, and you get a bit better at thinking, I'll just stay in this for a little bit. And it's not exactly peace.
I love the line, the silence of an old church or cathedral. I mean, I can think of one or two churches where you wonder whether the door will open, and you turn one of those massive round handles and it opens, and there really is nothing in there. I mean, the trouble with some churches and cathedrals is that actually they're pretty loud when you get in there. There's so much to look at. But that old church idea, and I remember, Adrian, all those years ago what was the book that we took with us on our honeymoon? Because we were hunting round these very old churches, weren't we? It was a guide to churches.
We're following Betjeman's guide to churches in Cornwall.
Well, actually, I know that sounds really bizarre, but it was so lovely because we would so often be opening a big, heavy door and pushing in, and that smell and quietness is something very hard to find. Well, she says, if heaven is these things all the time, would it not be overwhelming? I mean, would they not become the norm and lose their power? I think maybe these are things that keep us going on earth, and that heaven is something so different, so mysterious, that our minds cannot even go there, which is interesting. So she's saying that the taster is just, we use the word glimpse. Here she's using the word taster, that it's a tiny possibility.
Yeah.
But as soon as we try to then move into thinking, I can write about heaven, that's a bit of a challenge.
C.S. Lewis said that if perfect peace is achieved in the world, and you're looking down from above, you'll see a man reading a book in a garden.
Adrian, that sums you up and one of our sons. I think that would be perfect peace. I'm sure other people would.
The point he's making.
But I think for him is the point.
Isn't that is what you'd see.
No, I know.
It is that you would see him doing that.
Yes.
And for everybody, there is something that works, which is your own, and which means a great deal.
Well, we have a very good friend for whom fishing is that, isn't it? And I'm sure he's not alone in that. That it's such a unusual, I don't want to use the word hobby, but you go somewhere deliberately where there isn't anybody else, and then you sit and you wait for a very long time, probably.
Well, I think I think there are some people there sometimes, but they have quite a strict code of communication, I gather. I don't know anything about it, but I know that fishing for him is an incredibly calming thing. He really, really loves it.
And it's part of his diet, and without it, something is missing. There was one poem that really moved us that wasn't to do with glimpses of something beautiful. It was to do with that space that happens.
Well, let's listen to it, because...
Yeah, let's listen to it. Let's just let it... Yeah.
I mean, this certainly isn't about heaven. In fact, maybe it's about a little hell in a way. And it's called Your Space. What do I do with the space you've left behind? What do I do with your bed, your chair, your coffee table, marble-topped and too heavy to move? What do I do without you to tell me what I should do? How do I argue when you're not there? I talk to you and you answer, but you agree with me. What do I do when you are not there to argue? What do I do when I cry out to you and you're not there because you've left me behind, wondering, what do I do with the space when I don't want to have anything because you're still here, taking up the space, being larger than life and positive about everything and making jokes and just being so very, very silly? What do I do? What can I do when I need you to tell me how to cope without you? So what do I do with the space you left behind in the flat, in the days, in my life, in my heart?
Thank you for sending that one for us, because I think it really helped me, Adrian. I remember all the things that I knew about heaven temporarily disappeared just after my mother died. I mean, she was a Christian. I was sure she would go to heaven. And when I was with her when she died, just she and I, in her hospital bed in our dining room, and I expected to feel 100% sure, and actually there was a gulf and a darkness, because suddenly, partly she was on a journey I would never understand, but also I wasn't sure suddenly. And I think that not sureness, that space, is something we must never leap over, ever. And that's why I'm so glad for that poem. It broke my heart, actually, but I was so glad to have it. There's always been, from the death of Jesus, a space, a sense that nothing will ever be the same again, and can't be, and all the confidence that you had can temporarily disappear. And that's why I love that so much.
Official optimism is a waste of time.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, the last one we're going to read is from somebody you've heard us mention before. It's our banana hater-in-chief. And after I've read it, we're just going to do something very unusual, because we're going to tell you about where you can find more about her for a particular reason. But first of all, we'll read the poem.
And this is called?
It's just called Heaven. And interestingly, it starts with that same motif about bubbles, but it goes in a very different direction. If you remember the other one about the child holding her pot of bubbles full of hope and excitement and magic. Well, this is called Heaven. Just as a child in a cloud of bubbles snatches at the air to catch those inexplicable wonders in their little fists only to giggle at the inevitable pop, so too do I launch myself to jump and reach, to stretch my muddled mind, to grasp at heaven with my little fists, only for the incomprehensible wonders to pop, disappearing into the infinite. But I do not giggle. The fear starts creeping, because in a place without time or space will I no longer have my physical brain, which will lie lifeless, buried in the ground. How will I still be me, without my own particular way of thinking that it gifted me? My soul may well be safe, but what is a soul without a brain? I like the way that I think, the way that I am. How then will I stay myself? The only comfort is that God loves the way I think, the way I am, even more than I do. So even though I will become something made new and strange in a dimension and state that none can comprehend, I have no choice but to trust that somehow God will fiercely guard his beloved bubbles, so that our unique core of consciousness will not just pop and disappear onto the infinite.
And knowing as we do the situation that our friend there lives in, which is one of a physical containment that's almost impossible to understand, it becomes very, very meaningful. And I do thank you for that.
It does. And the reason when I said we were going to do something a little bit unusual, I think it's right. We heard from her, and she's called Jenny. And she's called Jenny Robery, and we're actually going to put a link on our website, because what she really wants is for you to join her in something that she produced just very recently, which she calls A Summer Night's Dream of Poetry with Jenny Robery. And one of the reasons that she wants you and us to join her is not just in order to enjoy those poems, all of which she reads, but also because it will help you understand her physical, unbelievable situation and her need for something very radical to happen. So I know it's very unusual for us to do this, but we're very comfortable with doing it just this once, aren't we? Yeah. So we're going to put the link to her website so you can see for yourself. But thank you, everybody. What a treat this has been, Adrian. And
well,
I'm
it's
sure
so nice when people react like that.
I know.
It's a very warming
So thank you so much. And we'll speak to you again next week.
Yeah.